When Peter from Jack Mason contacted me to have a look at their Stratotimer GMT, I was going to say no. And the reason I was going to say no because I know Jack Mason have been around for a while, and generally as an enthusiast they don't really produce enthusiast watches. Until now. So I decided to get this watch on the channel and see what all the fuss is about. Because being the first micro brand to be able to offer this Miyota 9075, a true GMT with the jumping local hour hand, I thought let me give Jack Mason a go, let me see if the build quality and the finishing is worth the $999. So let's check this thing out. Now I'm going to approach this review on an enthusiast's point of view, and that's me. I'm an enthusiast. And for those who have known me long enough, they know that I'm not a collector. I love watches, I love horology, anything from high-end all the way down to micro brands. But when it comes to fashion watches, I'm not a real big fan. And Jack Mason for me has always been in that tier. But after having this watch on the wrist for a week, I can tell you they're trying to break into a new market. And that's pretty impressive because this watch here, as many of you probably already know, it features the Miyota 9075. It's a jumping local hour hand, a true GMT, or traveler's GMT as we say, because that hour hand moves clockwise and anti-clockwise as you travel into a different time zone. And the only real drawback from a true GMT movement is the lack of quick set date, but that's to be expected. Now before I continue, you saw the pop-up, Jack Mason has sponsored this video. This watch has been sent out to the channel without the need for it to be returned. However, as with any company that sends anything onto this channel, they have zero input into the review. And I'm going to tell you a couple of things about this watch which I found throughout the week, some which have been really great, but others have left a little bit of a question mark. So let's dive straight into the specs. And dimension wise, I measure a case diameter of exactly 40.9mm with a case height of 13.2. The lug to lug is 46.9 with a lug width of 20. The crown has excellent knurling. It is a 6.4mm signed screw down crown. The watch offers 200 meters of water resistance, and the total weight of this watch on this bracelet, sized to my 18cm wrist, comes in at exactly 150 grams. So for a 41mm watch, the overhead is sitting beautifully. The lug to lug distance of 46.9 is superb. And even that height, I quoted 13.2, however, you can see there's a box sapphire crystal. So the better part of a couple of millimeters is taken up by that crystal. Now the comfort on this bracelet has also been superb. It's a Jubilee style bracelet. It tapers from 20mm down to 15.9 at that clasp, and that clasp has been superb. But you've probably already noticed something. There's a couple of scratches here at the end, and I'll explain why. Now when it comes to watches that are sent into this channel, I wear them for a week. And I think at the end of a week you pretty much get a good feel of what the watch can and cannot do. And with this one here, as you can see, it's got a Jubilee style bracelet. Like I said, tapers from 20mm down to 15.9. It's got female end links. They're solid. They're also quick release. It also features screw pins. Now, one thing you'll notice, the swivel itself, there's a couple of fine scratches just in there. That's from usage throughout the week. But also, I've struggled to press this clasp down. As wonderful and as thin as this clasp is, it's also got on-the-fly micro adjustability. I've struggled to press it down. I've had to actually press the two triggers to be able to close it. Now, whether that's how it's meant to be done or whether you're meant to press it normally, it's really difficult and stiff, so I've used the triggers to actually close it. And the reason for those scratches is because the clasp is extraordinarily long. Now, it's comfortable, but because it's long, I've found that desk diving, I've been scratching it just in that department just there. But putting that aside, the micro adjustability on this clasp has been superb. I measure at least 15 or 16mm of movement, and that is huge. That is absolutely enormous. I've not had an issue with comfort. I've found the perfect sweet spot for me throughout the week. It's been great. Now moving away from that, apart from this bracelet, the hero of this watch is that movement. The Miyota 9075, 28,800 vibrations per hour. It's got plus or minus 5 seconds in its regulation, and it's got 42 hours of power reserve. Now unscrewing that crown, we've got a healthy pop out, and just putting the crown out into the first position, it hasn't actually hacked the movement. So it now allows us to move that hour hand either clockwise or anti-clockwise. So depending on which time zone we're going in, if you have a look, you can see the date, it's changed. So I might be traveling into a different time zone, or if I go backwards, it also allows the date to go backwards. And we return where we were. So that's an excellent function. That's called a TRUE GMT or Traveler's GMT, because the GMT hand itself is indicating my home time, where I left, and the jumping hour hand is indicating the location to where I've traveled. So Miyota has produced an excellent movement in that regard. Now I did mention that the movement is regulated to plus or minus 5 seconds in-house, and with this particular watch here, I've actually been running it all week. It's been gaining exactly plus 10 seconds per day. So whether this is a full production version or not, I know it's got the proper clasp and so forth, but the actual regulation has been exactly plus 10 seconds, just putting it out there. Now if I turn my attention to that bezel, as you can see, it's a sapphire insert with lume filled, it's a 24-hour scale, and it's a 48 click bi-directional, and that's spot on. You can go left, you can go right, and it locks in exactly where it needs to be. It lines up perfectly. No issues, no qualms whatsoever. In fact, the knurling on the bezel has been superb. I was going to say that it's probably a little bit tight to grab it, but because of that knurling and the harshness and sharpness of it, it's actually been very easy to grip, which has been a big plus. Another thing that I like about this watch is that dial. As you can see, you've got a pearl sunburst finish. You've got an applied logo at the 12. It's a star, the Texas star. And even the fine detail of that seconds hand, you can see right at the end of the counterbalance, you've got red, white and blue. So hearkening to Texas, I think Jack Mason have done well by trying to create an identity here of their own, and again I give them top marks. Lastly, before I speak about the negatives of this watch, let's have a look at the lume. The watch features Swiss Superluminova, and the handset, the markers, even that bezel, they seem to be doing a great job. My only gripe, that bezel to me does not last as long as the rest of the actual dial and handset. I know they did mention that they were going to put more lume in the production version. Whether or not this watch is a full production version, I'm letting you know the bezel itself does not last as long. Now what are the plus and minuses of this watch? What are the things that I found throughout the week that I think could use attention? And first and foremost, if you look at that sapphire insert, under close inspection, the orange section, I found that you could generally see the glue or the adhesion that's on the actual bezel as well as the sapphire insert itself. Because it's almost translucent, you can see through that. You really have to pay close attention, and in certain lighting scenarios. It's not really bugged me, and to be honest, I've only actually seen it when I photographed the watch closely. In daily usage, I didn't notice it, but it was brought to my attention when I saw the close-ups on the macro. Second negative to me is that clasp. It is quite long. Some people might find it, with smaller wrists, might find it a little bit on the longer side. For me, it's been very comfortable, very balanced. But keeping in mind smaller wrist guys, that length might present a little bit of a problem. Third negative I want to speak about is that crown. Although the size is very nice at 6.4mm, and the knurling is actually excellent, it's not as broad as I'd like it to be. See, the knurling is actually quite small because you've got a dome on the outside of that crown that sticks out. So really the knurling starts inward. So I would have preferred maybe just flatten it out, bring the crown out so that you can actually grab it easier. So for ease of use, a slightly broader crown really would have benefited this watch. Next negative I want to touch on is the regulation. The specs say plus or minus 5 seconds. This is running at plus 10. Again, disclaimer, is this a full production version? I'm not sure. I believe it is because it has got the on-the-fly adjustment clasp, but even in saying that, it's been plus 10 seconds, whether in a flat position, crown up, crown down, it's been plus 10 exactly. So a little tweak and that can be rectified. And probably the last negative for me, I'll probably touch on a stylistic point, and that is the color of that lume. The color as in standing in daylight. So we've got a slight green hue on that Superluminova, and I know they've got different colorways of the watch from a Pepsi and so forth, and just looking at the Pepsi's got white lume and this one's got green. It would have been nice to see this watch in white lume, because I feel the whole overall look would have been just that little bit more classy, more neutral, and would have given that orange bezel and GMT hand just that little bit more pop and attention. But that's me. I'm speaking on a colorist point of view. Being a photographer, I work with color every single day, and I know that the complementary color of orange is blue, not green. So making it white really would have cleaned this thing up. That's just my personal preference. But putting all that aside, what are the positives of this watch? Well, honestly, there's a couple of heroes. The on-the-fly adjustability, the comfort on that bracelet is absolutely phenomenal. This is a really nicely designed bracelet and clasp. It has been so comfortable on the wrist. Secondly, legibility has been fantastic. It's been a very practical watch in its usage, in its functionality, and that's all got to do with that movement, that 9075. That is fantastic. Well done, Miyota. This has been a really, really superb movement. Another plus, the lume has been good, not on the bezel, not what I expected. I would have loved it to last a little bit longer, but on the handset and the indices has been really great. And lastly, I'd probably say value for money. The watch does come in at $999. It might sound a little bit steep, but for that sort of money, you are getting a perfect enthusiast GMT. It's comfortable, it's built well, the finishing is quite good at this price point. The sapphire crystal has not shown any issues. The AR coating has been great. Apart from the expected distortion at the extreme edges, which we expect from a box sapphire crystal, it's been wonderful. So a very interesting watch. Jack Mason Stratotimer GMT, a true traveler's watch, a true enthusiast GMT. Whether you like the design or not, that's really a personal taste, but as far as functionality goes, this has been a killer. It's been a real practical watch and a real comfortable one at that as well. I hope you enjoyed the review, guys. Let me know your thoughts of this watch. I've played around with the watch, trying it on a tropic strap, an orange tropic strap, and it just brings a little bit more fun, summery fun into this piece. I'm sure you can experiment with leather and different strap options, but on this bracelet, it's been absolutely superb. A real comfortable and enjoyable experience throughout the week. Thanks again for watching. Be well, be safe, and we'll see you all in the next video.